This video is a little different than the other topics I've covered. It's for those who feel they have everything that's actually meant something to them, but they don't have themselves. Somehow, their true self has gotten lost along the way. Maybe they're on default because there's so many things to do, and so, they go unconscious and just out there so busy, so overwhelmed, trying to handle what there is to handle. Maybe they're out there like doing fun things too, but doing those things to fill a void or to check things off their list or to tell their mind, hey, yeah, I am doing what I love. But instead, they're really missing being present with themselves in a way that is expressing their true self in their life, that allows them to really be themselves in their business, in their relationships, in their creative endeavors, in the way they live, the simple choices they make. There's so many people that don't even know what it is that they love when they are so caught in agreeing with others, in living the way other people live, in making those kinds of choices. And it comes apparent usually when either something major happens in their life that gets them to look at themselves, and that can be health related, that can be an upset and something suddenly stopping or not working in their life anymore. It can be the end of a relationship. It can be kids growing up. It can be some kind of failure, or it can just be an emptiness, a sense of void that, is this all there is? Is this all there is to life? And that can happen, as I said at the beginning, when you do feel like you have everything, right? You have the business or the career, you have, the financial health, you have a lovely family, you have good friends, you travel, you do all the things. And there's a reason that this energy comes up. And it's an invitation. Of course, you can see it as a problem. It may have caused a lot of problems because you're not really showing up as your true self. But that can be really self-diminishing, it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to think that way, and it can just lead us to thinking that we're the problem. And so when I use the word invitation, I'm using it intentionally to let you know there's something like inside of you that's kind of going, come back to me, come back and feel and know and see all that I have to share with you, so that you can be your full self in the world. You can be in your fuller expression. So, I read a lot, I listen to lots of different things, and most of my career actually began because I was doing that way back in the day, when I was like in university, that I would hear these people who are really successful, the kind of thing that we all kind of work towards. And then they'd say, but you know what? It wasn't enough because I lost myself along the way, or I just wasn't enjoying life. I couldn't find the joy anymore. I was just doing, and I didn't feel good about myself or proud of myself. I couldn't even feel a sense of fulfillment. And I really felt that, I remember really feeling that. And I don't know if it was a decision or just kind of a natural gravitation to say, the way I work with people, I want to ensure that they get to be themselves in the process, in the journey, so that it's not only about material results, that it is also about inner experience. So a lot of my motivation is from that place. And it may be unusual. Like some people say, wow, like it's strange that you already felt that at a younger age. But I did. Like that's what really caught my attention, because to me the outer things that seem like practical actions, right? They're things that we learn along the way and we do, and yes, we've got to keep growing in order to, the bigger success we want, the more we often have to grow. But that felt more mechanical to me. yet the inner peace is where I felt there was a lot of, there was a lack of attention, actually. That's what it felt like, a lack of attention, because these aren't the things people generally speak about, right? It's the stuff that's kind of hidden. It might be in the background, or if you get to really know a person, you hear those parts about them. But there's lots of families who would say, I never knew that this person was going through all of that they're describing. I just saw that they were successful and I thought they were happy, and they always seem to be having a good time. I didn't know. So it's really easy to hide what's going inside because we're not a society that typically has those conversations. You often have to craft them, or if you're in a certain circle of people, maybe they will ask you questions that really do look at how are you doing, how are you feeling, are you is a fulfillment that I see in you like coming from within, or like what's going on, right? And of course you have to ask those questions in the right context. But that's kind of the beauty of the work that I do, that I really get to have those conversations and I get to see the real self of a person along with what it is that they're doing in the world. And we get to have these what I would call really sacred conversations that help them hear themselves and also see themselves in ways that they have forgotten to look at. And so, if this is kind of new to you and you're wondering, well, like where would I begin? What does that mean? I do have, a person can work with me just for one session or a couple of sessions, by the way, if you're completely new, you just want to get a feel for it and have such a conversation. And you can click in the description box for that. It's a place to start by going deep and seeing what another can see. Someone who is trained and understands how to listen and how to observe. So, we have the beauty of working online these days. And so, I've worked with people from different parts of the world. And fortunately, before, it would have been by phone, but now, we've had video for all these years where I can see the body language too. Because I remember that being really important when I started my work. I used to think, I really want to work only in person with people because there's a transmission of energy that happens in such a situation. And there's often a deeper trust. That was my old thinking, because it used to be like that. But with video, with the opportunity to be online in real time with somebody, I get to also experience that and also transmit that kind of energy. And I remember one client I had, and in the at the beginning, he just had one session with me, and then later he made the decision to work longer. But he wrote a testimonial, which I really appreciated, and honestly was quite, I guess, poetic. And it reflected his experience in a way that, usually the typical testimonial doesn't say. So I thought to share it with you today. So I'm just going to pull it up here and read. But this was his experience. And as I say, when I work one-on-one, it can go deep, but it can also be really fun. Like a person gets to be really just open and say what's on their mind, what's in their heart, and where they really want to go, what kind of fuller expression they want to have in their world. And so his words were, first of all, he said that he appreciated the gentle yet strong and very focused presence that I offered in the session, that I really actively listened to him. And, you may already understand this, but active listening isn't just hearing the words. It's feeling, what are the feelings underneath those words? Where are the silences? Where are the questions? Where is a person struggling? And where are things just flowing out of them? So all of that, understanding that and being able to relate with it creates an active listening experience. So then he said, And he was like talking to somebody who might be reading this, somebody who didn't know me. He said, as you share, and without her saying very much, you feel yourself divinely guided. And it's like being within the velvet ropes which line a runway, leading towards a most glorious exhibition, which happens to be your greatness. And I really appreciated this testimonial because it reflected my intention that I want you to see yourself. I want you to be in your life. I want to experience your expression, versus the millions of other people that we read about, hear about, watch. Because that's when a person gets actually really interesting. And that's when they suddenly get really interested in their own life and their own expression coming out. That's when they start feeling safe to actually be themselves and not have to constantly seek approval and validation from other people. They get to be themselves. And when you get to be yourself, then everything that you already do have, the success or happiness you've created, the good things that seem to work regularly and you're really, fulfilled with, then they rise up even further. There's just a different energy because you're fully present. And we know that. How many times have you had a conversation with someone when they're clogged out, It's almost like their eyes are kind of glazed over. They're not really present with you. We feel that. And there's a real loss in that moment because we're not connecting. That person isn't showing up. And so they're not sharing their gift. And they're probably not receiving yours. But when a person is present, fully present, and they're being themselves, and it's this sounds kind of funny after what I've just said, but it's almost like you're not there. In other words, you're not so self-conscious that they're trying to hide or change or manipulate the words you're using or try to show a different, a certain persona. They're actually just being with you, and they're sharing whatever comes to them. That is the whole person shining through. And when we have that, the energy is so magnetic. The frequency, as they say, is naturally higher because there is nothing blocking them. They are really they are open. Their heart is open. Their mind is open. They're engaging, right? And that person and what they can create in this world is so much more. Because it's going to be real. It's going to be felt. It's not just a product, a nameless product, that you could buy anywhere from someone else. But that it comes from them. For example, if they have a business or they have a certain role and they're a leader and you're going to be captured more by where they want to take you than a person who really isn't in themselves or is just, giving you numbers and so-called proof about why you should listen to them, right? So this is a different nature and experience that a person can go through. And people, when they start really allowing that fuller expression to come through, not only do they start shining and radiating a new energy, but as I said, everything in their life starts to kind of reorganize itself to match this energy. And things can really rise to higher and higher levels because of that. Suddenly they look at the projects they're doing and they're able to say, these, I don't need to be there. But these ones, yeah, I'm definitely going to add more energy. I'm going to bring more of myself. And I have these creative ideas that are going to really expand what I've been working on, what I want people to receive from this. And that is, it's like waking up to yourself. It's like suddenly being plugged in. And your access to a kind of magnetism is going to be dialed up. And when that happens, This is when synchronicities can increase. This is when suddenly solutions come before the problem has even manifested. It's like you already know to put things in place. It's where you suddenly get that brilliant idea that really expresses who you are, and then now you can take out into the world at a greater level, right? You're bringing all of you in, as I said, into the business or in the career or the relationships and your creative ideas and the way you simply move through life, perhaps the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you walk, right? You don't have to think about those things. You don't have to go and get training on how to do this to attract more, whatever it is that you want. You just be it. And that doesn't require thought. And that's the way that I come and work with people, is I come from that place of having them be themselves where they naturally do all of that. I don't spend and waste hours and hours of their time teaching them techniques or how to speak in a way to attract people or how to dress that way just to get attention. I help them come out so that the way, for example, if they want to change their dress, naturally fits their expression, right? I guide them to the parts that are so magnetic in them so that when they do speak, that's naturally like flowing out of them. It begins to bring their energy into a much more concentrated and potent space from which other people will 100% recognize that something has shifted. I've worked with lots of different people, and it's amazing. I remember one person who I had actually participated in the or brought the styling piece to her as one of the services I offer some of my private clients, and she literally said that like she wore one of the new outfits and she was literally at the airport and the security guard couldn't help but compliment her on the way she looked. And another woman, we literally had a 2-day intensive, and it was the same thing. She said she was just, walking, I don't know, whether it was a park that day or something, and she had like 4 or 5 women just have to like comment on what she was wearing and how beautiful she looked. I've had people say that suddenly their boss took notice of them when they hadn't ever kind of really engaged with them. People's, staff, like I've had people who have businesses and their staff are suddenly like, what's changed? It's like you're more of yourself, and that allows the staff to relax, and the staff starts bringing more of who they are to the workplace. So there's this ripple effect that shows up and becomes available when we move into our true self and allow more of that fuller expression. And that there's not an end to it. It's a constantly expanding space and energy. And that's what keeps momentum flowing. It allows us to change when we need to change. It allows us to be brave and courageous when we have to take new steps that are, foreign even to us. It helps us handle challenges because we're not so involved in being self-conscious about what we're saying or doing. We're just radiating, and we get to be in action. And so there are people who work with me 3 months, 6 months, even up to 12 months. The ones who have the bigger businesses or visions, or just, have a more complex life that they really, they want to like bring everything together so it's coming out of them, it's coming through them, and they're able to be who they really are. Because one of the most painful things I think a person can go through is live their whole life and never really feel like they got to be themselves. No, they got to know themselves. They got to experience the expansiveness of who they really are. That they, chased things and events and experiences and results and people just to fill an inner void. An inner void that was meant to be filled with who they are, not by the external. Because when that happens, everything in the external also gets filled out with us. And there is a new kind of intimacy, a new kind of engagement, a new energy. There's an aliveness to people who live like that. And so if you feel you have everything, or most everything, but you've lost yourself, what I really want to say in this video is that you are the greatest gift you can give yourself. And there are ways that you can discover who you really are and allow more of that to come into your world, out into your world, to really allow you to expand into a much bigger vision. Because when we're in that small container, we only can have a small life. It's only when we expand that suddenly those ideas and downloads start dropping in and we think bigger, and we are able to suddenly, like, we meet people out of the blue who are like the perfect match for things, right? When you want to live in that kind of magic and that kind of joy and that kind of I wonder what's going to happen, you are really shifting into a different frequency. You are unlocking your true power instead of being the recipient of whatever happens or comes. And so ponder the things I said today. Look at it. How much do I feel like I get to be myself? And what, if I wasn't, if I thought I was, but there was actually much more, what might that look and feel like? And if you want to work with somebody who really deeply understands this and values providing such a journey, then as I said, you can click on the link below in the description box and find the ways that you can work with me. But it will change and transform your whole experience of the way life can be lived when you allow yourself to be part of that bigger vision in ways that you've probably never thought you would be able to express who you really are.